Okay, here we go.
Here we go. We're live. Buenas noches, chicas. How is everybody doing? I see y'all are already in the chat. Y'all are ready for this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are going to be talking. It's like, I guess this is a continued theme from Monday. This is still country shopping conversation. But this conversation is going to be a little bit different because we're going to be talking about what this is like when you are over 50 with my guest tonight, Miss Deborah Emricks. If you are new here, welcome, welcome, welcome. I am Adelia Borishade, although most people know me as Picky Girl Travels the World. And anybody who has watched any video on this channel can tell you that I am picky about a lot of things. Uh, food, how I spend my time, who I spend my time with, all the things, all the things. But not only do we talk about the things that I am picky about, we talk about solo travel on this channel. I am the founder of Picky Girls Travel Solo, which is a Facebook group for Black women solo travelers. It is a safe space to network, to share, to ask questions. Doesn't matter if you are a novice solo traveler or if you are an OG and you've been in the game for a long time. Uh, we talk about living abroad. I am an expat of 6 years. I call Mexico City home. And we also talk about money and finances because, as I've said multiple times, living this life, this freedom I have, freedom ain't free. And so you got to figure out how to get your money situated so that you can live the life that you want. So if any of those are topics of interest to you, you have found your people here on the internet. Go ahead and subscribe, turn on notifications so that you will know the next time I go live with a guest or that I upload a video. So, hey everybody. I see a lot of regulars in the chat. Hey y'all, I see a few new faces. Okay, so, if you were here Monday, you got the latest on my country shopping saga. Mexico City is home for me, but I would like to have residency in another country. So I've been exploring where are those places that I could actually do that. But tonight we are going to talk about Deborah's uh, country shopping adventures. And as before we jump into like what's been going on with that lately, for the folks that don't know you and don't know your story, when did you leave the US?
May 1st, 2021.
Okay. So you have been an expat living abroad for, are we going to say a year and a half?
I
That
would say.
involves some math, and I don't
Yeah.
do no math.
You
Okay.
do not even not math, but yes,
Yes.
I would say
Yes.
about a year and a half. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And I don't want to ask your age, but uh,
You know what? I got to live this long. I'm gonna tell my age. I don't always tell it, but I'm 65.
okay. All right. So you were over 60 and decided to leave the US. That's a big deal because in the work that I do, talking to women who are planning a move abroad, a lot of folks your age would be like, oh, it's too late. That's something I wanted to do when I was much younger. I'm too old to do that. Did you ever feel that way?
Absolutely felt that way. I was lying in my bed in my little apartment in Baltimore in the midst of the pandemic. You know, a lot of us would like, I would say I was hitting the wall because it was like, oh my God, the world is like falling apart. And I was just lying in bed. I was thinking, but my mom, I was like, I can't die this way. My thoughts were, I don't want my legacy to be that I never left Baltimore and I never lived anywhere else, because all my friends would say, Deborah, you're the kind of person you should be living somewhere else. I mean, even my therapist said that. She said, I see you living somewhere. I had just hired her. So I'm like, so I'm lying in bed one day and I was like looking out the window. I said, wait a minute, my mother lived to be 94. If I live to be 94, that's another 30 years.
That's a long
30
time.
Yes. So I was like, 30 years doing this same old everyday suffering. Cause this sameness, I was like, the sameness was killing me. And I was like, I gotta do something. And I used to want to live somewhere else other than Baltimore, like Atlanta. Glad I never moved to Atlanta when I think about the dating scene there, right? I'm glad I didn't do that. But then later I wanted to be an expat. I always liked the word expat. I like that word. I want to be, and I would start declaring that I wanted to be location independent. I attended, in fact, me and my daughter attended this conference in Atlanta in 2016, and the sister there, she was like just doing her thing. She could live anywhere. She was building a house in Hawaii, and I was like, and I used to always say, I want to be location independent. I want to live somewhere else. And lying in bed that day, I just made a decision that I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna go. I gotta do this. And that was the beginning. That's the first step anyway. Decide. Like you
Yep.
just decide. And then the rest of the stuff started like happening.
And that I think might be the hardest part, is making that decision that this life that I have been living, it is not fulfilling me, it is not serving me, and that I can do something else. I
Mhm.
can make a change. And y'all, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to have Deborah on here, is because I know there are folks out there, even though, like, I mean, I left the US at 41. Stephanie Perry and I talk about this, these 30-year-olds who are like, oh, I think I'm too old. Like, girl, if you don't go sit down somewhere. 41 wasn't too old, 53 isn't too old, 65 isn't too old. There is no such thing as too old, because what's the alternative? If you
Right.
don't do the thing, however much time you have left, you have to live with the regret of not doing the thing.
Exactly. Because you don't know how long you're going to live unless you plan your own death. Okay. You don't know, right? So let's figure it like, I say to myself now, like, okay, what if I live another year? Well, why not live that one more year being happy? Well, duh. It's like, why not? That makes no sense. And I understand the fear, because we'll talk about that, because I had fear. It wasn't as if I did something that I wasn't afraid to do. But one of the things I know, I've done a lot of things afraid. I'm always doing stuff afraid. Some people are more fearless than me, but people think in my life, some people think that I'm fearless, and but I'll be scared. But I'm also afraid that if I don't do it, the regret, because I think, I fast forwarded my life to, let's say, like I said, I don't even have to be 94, but let's say 70 years old. And every year I said, I'm going to do it, but I don't know. And I don't do it. That would have been 6 whole years
That you could have been doing it.
I would have been doing it. And so it's like, no. And I needed support, and I got support. But I had to make the decision first, Adelia. It wasn't like the support came. The support usually comes after you decide the kind of support that you can really take advantage of.
Yeah, because you've got to understand what it is that you want, or what it is that you need to do. And
Yes.
as I say all the time, y'all, the universe tends to unfold as it should. You make the decision that this is the thing I'm going to do, the universe will start to put the things you need in your path You just got to take advantage of it. But let's talk about that fear, because I know that there is a woman watching this and she's thinking, yeah, y'all are saying I'm not too old, but I am afraid. And you said you were afraid. What were some of the things that you were fearful about?
I'm, it's funny because I'm not fearful of traveling, right? That's not a fear. I've been places and I just don't travel with fear. And I go places. I remember going to South Africa and they were like, and they were telling, oh, don't do this and don't do that. I went with three other women. I was like, we separated. We went our own ways in the club. So I'm not a fearful traveler. I think my fear was about just the unknown, like, and giving up stuff. I think that's my age group. Let's be real. We have deeper roots. We have more stuff. And we're older. And so being older, you start thinking about your mortality. I know I do. I had a partner that passed away in 2018. And boy, did that accelerate my thoughts about mortality. He suddenly died of a heart attack. And I was like, shoot, one day here, same day gone. And so I think the fear for me was it was kind of like a blurb. I can't put my finger on it. And let me think about that some, because I just know that I was afraid.
But
I know
no, I think you kind of touched on it. When you live in the US and you aspire to the American dream and you do the things that make you successful, like we talk about Black excellence all the time and the things that we're supposed to do, if you've done that, you've amassed stuff. You've created a position for yourself. And something like moving abroad means walking away from that, giving
yes.
all of that up. And if that's been the goal, that's been the thing that defines where you are in society, that's a very scary thing to say, I'm just going to give all of this up and I'm going to walk away from all of it. So no, I can understand that kind of fear. Absolutely.
I will say this though, I must have been preparing and not even realizing. I didn't know the pandemic obviously was going to happen. But I had started at one point in my life thinking, I want to be a minimalist. So I started doing some things differently. And I gave up my car November of 2019. I moved downtown Baltimore. First, I moved downtown Baltimore. Then I gave up my car because my intention at that time was I'm going to walk everywhere I go and I'm going to I'm just, that's part of my exercise. I'm also going to save money because a car is a very expensive thing. Just next to your home, it just sucks your money up. If it's not the payment, then it's a repair. So I gave the car up, and it was an old Volvo, and I gave that car up. I donated it, and then I started walking to work. I worked in the jail as as a lawyer. I was representing people, and I still do that. But I was setting myself up to have a simpler life. And I had moved into a studio apartment, very cute, nice building, all of that. But so I think, like some of these women are already preparing. They're already putting in place this move, and they may not be aware of.
It's a subconscious thing. It's like,
Yeah.
that the life that you are living is not the life you want. So you start to make these changes in a way seeking, to create the life you want. And it can be a subconscious thing. Totally.
Yeah, it definitely was. And then, by that time, I was used to people thinking I was crazy. People have been thinking I'm crazy for years. So I was like, okay, because I quit practicing law at one point. I became a lawyer. It's been 28 years I've been a lawyer, right? I did the math recently. And so had been a lawyer for a few years and I quit. And people were like,
that's not something you quit. You don't quit being a lawyer.
They were like, you all of that, you did all of that training and the border, and I was like, to me, it was like I wasn't happy. I don't care what y'all say. So I started writing books. I started doing other stuff. It was some struggle in it, but I was happier than I was doing the legal work that I was doing. I was doing workers' comp, and the white folks were crazy, and they would give, yeah, it was just crazy. So I had been kind of established, and I would say to women who want to do things that most people ain't gonna agree with what you're doing. That ain't for them to understand. They're not gonna agree, and many of them will be jealous and envious.
And
Quietly.
they may not realize that that's what they're feeling when
True,
they are, saying these things to you. But what
true.
I just want to touch on this a little bit. You said, I wasn't happy being a lawyer. I left that to do these things that made me happy. And I see that as sort of the antithesis of American culture, because in our culture, it's we give lip service to being happy. But you're not supposed to walk away from a good job. You're not supposed to walk away from a prestigious career to do
Exactly.
whatever little Rudy Poo thing you're talking about. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't give up being a lawyer. But I think about it like with artists a lot. When they say, I want to make art, and their parents or the people in their lives are like, but yeah, but how you gonna pay your rent?
Mhm,
Because that's the thing that we put at our priority,
mhm.
not really happiness. That's what I mean when I say we give lip service to that.
Very,
So
very, very true. Because for me, I I just somehow learned to prioritize happiness over things. Even when I had gotten a house, I was had the the law degree. I bought a house my last year of law school. Who does that, right?
yeah, who does that?
Right. I had bought a house, and I had a nice luxury car with all, fully loaded. I had all of that, but I was like miserable. I was like, oh my God, I got everything they told me I was supposed to get, but I'm not happy. So that's when I started looking for, like, if this stuff is not making me happy, that they told me was going to make me happy. They told me that do this, do that, do this, and do that. You're going to be good now. You successful, you happy. It did not make me happy. I was not happy. So I said, okay, well, I need to find my happiness. And so that's when I went on that pursuit. And don't regret it one bit, because I tell you, America would have us believe that stuff is the answer and a title is the answer. Now I'm practicing law again now, but I work between 7 and 10 days a month. That's about, and I love doing it. I did it today, and I was like, hey, I was done. Usually I'm done. Sometimes I'm done by 11 o'clock in the morning. So I'm like, hey, I'm getting paid. Hey. So, but I think that the mistake that a lot of women make is that we do invest too much in what other people think, and I do it too. So
Yeah.
I think too much about what would they say, what would they think.
But that's why you're here tonight, to have this conversation, so that the woman who is watching this, who has been feeling this but
Mhm.
hasn't quite been able to put her finger on it or be able to acknowledge what it is, can say, okay, that's what it is.
Yeah,
That's the thing. That's what's been holding me back. Have doctors said fear of failure and success are real. um, we live in a society that does not value doing things different than the norm.
yes,
Everything is about conforming. And so
yeah,
anytime you try and step outside of that, people gonna have something to say.
yeah.
So you um you made this decision. You were like, I could be here a whole nother 30 years possibly. I want to live somewhere else. So
Mhm.
then what was the next step?
So the next step was, interestingly enough, I had been following Stephanie for years, thanks to Kathy Hampton, we went to law school together, so we have a history. And thanks to Kathy, we share information and stuff. And so years ago, she shared Stephanie Perry's channel with me. And so I would watch it from time to time. So I don't even remember all the steps that led me up to taking her challenge, the 6-day get your first 3 clients challenge. So I was still practicing law, but of course, I want more streams of income. So I was like, okay, let me do this, let me do that. And here I was in the challenge, the 6-day challenge. On the very last day, Tony Carthen, she shows up. I had not seen her those other 5 days in the challenge. She shows up and I just see this new face. And I was sitting on my bed and I said, I want to move to Mexico. Now, how I got to Mexico, I know a woman who had moved to Mexico, another part, Puerto Vallarta, and I know some, it was just beautiful. And I know some people that went to visit her. And so Mexico that's how Mexico got on my radar. And so when I said that at that day that I want to move to Mexico, Tony says, not knowing me, never seen me before, well, come on. And there was something about that said, and we connected, and we're about the same age. I mean, we probably like a year apart or something, not even maybe 6 months or something apart. And we connected, and we just, became friends, and we would communicate, and she was my support, which is why I want to offer other women support, because sometimes why we fail, I would say most of the time we fail because we don't immerse ourselves into a community, or we don't get the support that we need. And we think we're supposed to get support from family and friends, but I can tell you that family and friends are sometimes usually the last to support you in doing something different. They support you in doing the same.
Again, staying within the norm.
Exactly.
Staying within the norm.
Support you in like moving abroad, or support you. Hunty.
Stephanie Perry talks about that a lot, that like the people who are already in your life, and when you're making this big change, they may not be the people to support this new life. So you just got to find new people. And so I'm going to put this up here. If there is by chance anybody watching this who does not already have their ticket for Exodus Summit, which starts this weekend, because the get your next 3 clients challenge was something that the ladies from Exodus Summit were doing to help Black women who wanted to live abroad and maybe fund some of that as a entrepreneur. So, finding those people who don't think you're crazy, who have similar goals. If you are watching this, and even if you're watching this from the future, because there will be replays of this weekend's event, and you're like, yes, I want to connect with other women who are doing this same thing, you need to be at Exodus Summit. And there was something else I was going to say. So Tony is like, because was she already in Mexico at that time?
She was already in Mexico. And that's the thing that I wouldn't have wanted to connect with someone who was living in Chicago saying, well, come on, what? I mean, it's wonderful, but the people who have already done what you've done want to do, those are the people. Yes. Which is why I ended up in Mexico City.
We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about that. Oh, I know. I know what I wanted to say about Tony. A few months ago, I don't know, y'all, time doesn't exist anymore. I did a panel discussion where we talked to Black women living abroad from each generation. Yeah. And Tony was repping the baby boomers. So if For the folks here that are over 50, over 60, if you haven't seen that video, definitely go to my channel and search through there. And hopefully I'll remember to put a link to it in the description of this one. If you're watching in the future, hopefully that link is down below. So yeah, Tony I can definitely see how she's like, yeah, girl, come on.
She was like, well, come on. And I'll never forget that moment because next thing you know, and she helped me. And that's why I'm offering other women through, to move abroad support, because that support can make the difference. You could either, without support, you could end up spending the rest of your life right where you are. And I guarantee you, Adelia will tell you what she's trying to help you live without regrets. You're going to have regrets. You're going to have regrets every year that passes, that you don't do what you say you want to do, because you won't get support. Everything I've done, mostly when I think about law school, I didn't do that by myself. When I wrote some books, I didn't do that by myself. We try too much as Black women, I think, to think that we're supposed to be able to do it by ourselves. No. 8 billion people on the planet, and you think we're supposed to do everything by ourselves? I don't think so. And like you said, the Exodus Summit has made the difference for a lot of women. And I'm offering a session, but also ongoing support to you, as like what Tony gave to me. That's why I want to offer that, because what Tony gave to me when I got stuck and I was packing, I was releasing, I was selling, there was a time when I just got absolutely stuck and I could not pack anymore. I could not do anything more. I don't know what, I was scared. Again, I was like, and we would talk, and she shared information that I would not have about what cards to get, what kind of bank card and all of that kind of stuff. And it made a difference. And so whether you get it from me, don't matter. Get it. That's all I say.
And that's the thing. Like, I help Black women move abroad. Rashida Dow does. Stephanie Perry does. Deborah does. It's not about we're competing with each other.
No,
it's you've got to find that person that resonates with you. Like the folks with kids will often talk to me because I moved abroad when my youngest was 15. But if you are over 50 or you are over 60 and you're like, no, I need to talk to somebody like Deborah, who is of a certain age and understands what I'm talking about, they're out there. The link for getting to talk to Deborah is in the description. And if I can figure it out, I'll pin it in the chat as well. But yes, you've got to find somebody. And okay, Monica said, it's hard to ask for help. It is. And especially for us as Black women, because we're supposed to save everybody.
I know.
And so we never ask for help. We just figure out a way to do it by ourselves. But you hear her saying this. Y'all see women come on this channel every week who talk about the community that they have become a part of and how that has been instrumental in them living the life of their dreams, whether that is moving abroad, that's writing the book, that's, knitting tea cozies, I don't know, but doesn't matter.
I would love to hear what is the story? What's her self-talk that tells her, what is it saying? Is it saying that means I'm weak? Is it saying that I know it's like we should all over ourselves. I should be able to do this by myself. And I'll say this, and I've said it before, we rather fail than ask for help. But really, when you think about it, a year from now, especially 5 years from now, you said, if I had just reached out to Adelia, If I had gone to Exodus Summit, and I'm gonna tell you one person, I'm putting everybody on blast. Kathy Hampton. Kathy is an example to me of somebody who prospers because she has no problem putting down her dineros to get some help. I
Yep.
tell her, I said, girl, that's one example you set, and you should do a video about that because Kathy will put down she's gonna put some money on it, okay? She ain't just trying to get the freebies. I used to go, oh, I gotta get some freebies. Now I've learned that you gotta pay for some stuff. You know,
Yes.
you gotta pay for some stuff because that tells the universe that you really are invested in your peace, your joy, your transformation. But if you always trying to get something free, you're gonna get free level stuff. Okay, it's not gonna be now. It could be great stuff, but it's nothing like
It might not be
focus
enough for what you need to
attention.
do.
Exactly, and there's nothing like working one-on-one, having one-on-one attention, focused attention from another person who's done what you've want to do. I keep saying done. Well, let's just say you've done it in your
Yeah.
mind and you just haven't realized it physically.
And I think, like what Cassie says here, people need to invest in themselves. And I think as Black women, we invest in ourselves when we can see how it benefits other people, but
Mm,
not always if we are going to be the sole beneficiaries of that. Those of you who listen to my podcast know that I am pro being selfish. I'm always going to tell you to choose you first, because
mhm,
if you don't choose you, how you going to do anything else?
exactly.
So I definitely agree with that. Definitely.
And Adelia, we also will invest in these designer bags. We will. Let's be real. I mean, I remember one time when I was really stupid. I bought this $300 Coach bag. I had no money to put in the bag. Girl, come on now. Think about that. What was that Coach bag going to get me? I remember scraping up the money. I remember seeing it in the case in the department store. And I remember I was running short. I found the rest of the money. So, but I had to learn. Well, hold on. Wow, something wrong with you. What's something wrong with that? But but I had to. That was some healing that needs to happen. But I want to bring it to women's attention because we are investing in something. We're
Yeah.
spending our money on something, okay? So when I look at some people who travel and people who don't, it's not the income. It's not the difference in the income. It's the difference in priorities.
Yeah. I that reminds me of something my mother said.
Like,
I don't
wait,
talk about my childhood a lot because it was wild, y'all. But hold on. Um I grew up in a house with no furniture, but over 3,000 books. And, when you're a kid, you want to fit in. And I was like, we are weirdos. We don't have no furniture and we got all these books. And my mama told me straight up, she was like, look, everybody spend their money on different things. Okay. So, how, like you said, the folks who spend their money on traveling versus this other thing, it's not that one is better or worse than the other. It's about what is your priority. Those books made my mama happy. I would have liked the couch, but I wasn't paying no bills, so didn't nobody ask me.
Mama loves the books. I ain't mad at
Yeah.
Mama, but she wanted the
Yep.
couch.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So Tony helped you, guided you, got you to Mexico. You arrived in Playa del Carmen,
Mm-hmm,
and from what I saw on the internet, you was having the time of your life,
mm-hmm.
living it up, doing all the things. And how long were you in Playa?
I made sure I stayed here at least 1 year. I was here until May 2022. I think I left on the 14th of May.
Okay. And so
Mhm.
you moved there with the intention of staying a year. Um, Now, when you left the US, the goal, the intention was, I want to live outside the US.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, were you necessarily looking for home?
I would say yes and no. I was looking for a place that felt good for me, good, like I could really like enjoy living here. Just feel good. I'm a person that really goes on how things feel. If it feels good, feels right, then I can be happy. And so I'm big on that with almost everything. Um, so when I moved to Playa, first I went to Merida for 1 week, thinking I might move there because that's where not only where Tony was, but I've been watching a lot of videos and people were saying, "Oh, Merida, Merida, Merida," and I went there and it was so hot and people were scattered about. Right, it was just really, really hot. It was hot, and to me, it wasn't even like it wasn't enough going on for me to feel like I'm gonna be lonely and bored, and that's one of the concerns that women my age I think have. And a lot of people don't want to talk about loneliness, but it's a real thing. Okay, so I was like, oh no, I need some place where I'm walking. I just go out, and I might run into somebody, and that look like me. So I stayed there a week, and someone had suggested Playa. I went to Playa the next week. It was Mother's Day, and I stayed. It just felt good. I stayed. And after I had been there a year, it was really it even maybe about 9 months or whatever. I started to feel a little restless, and I started to feel like I wanted to check out some other places. And that's when I made a decision that I was going to leave Playa. I packed up all my stuff, gave away a lot of stuff, throw away some stuff, and I decided I was going to go to Europe. And I thought that I would go to Portugal and live, but that didn't happen like that because the thing is that once I got to Portugal, first of all, people hype up Lisbon to me, and I didn't feel Lisbon. Lisbon didn't do it for me. I ended up in Porto, and there was the most adorable Airbnb that I've ever been in. I mean, it felt, and some of my friends, they were like, Deborah, that looks like the studio you had in Baltimore. So I was like, I didn't even think about it, but it was just so perfect for me. And so I stayed there, and I love Porto because it's walkable. That's one of the things that I like a walkable place. I like to be able to walk where I go to get my food, go to wherever, walk, hop on some, a bus or anything, a taxi. But I don't really like to have to get on public transportation if I don't have to. If I can walk, I usually walk. So when I got to Porto and I stayed there for 2 weeks, I really enjoyed it. And then I started looking for places online, and I didn't know how to really navigate uh, their process for getting an apartment. And a couple of times I felt like some people were trying to scam me. And that kind of turned me off. And I was like, I would get on a site and I would see an apartment. I said, well, can I see it? And they were like, well, first come over there and get off that platform and try to put me on another platform and send me 1,000 euros or whatever. And I was like, oh
Oh, yeah.
no, no, I gotta see you. I gotta see the apartment. And that happened several times. So I just kind of trashed that whole idea and just started enjoying myself. And then the D7, the visa, that was kind of intimidating when I heard all the work I got to do for that. I was like, but I think the main thing was I got to thinking about, I don't want to live that far away from my family and my friends that are in Baltimore where since I was in Playa, I had multiple friends come visit. My daughter came about 4 or 5 times. My sister came, my nephew, there were people, and I was feeling a little too removed in Europe from my family to make it a home. To visit, no problem. So I decided instead of pursuing all of those things, apartment, I just bounced around. And at one point, my daughter came and we traveled to Spain and I went to Amsterdam. It was just beautiful. So I just looked at it as like a nice little adventure, to that was I feel like at my age, I was kind of living some of the dreams I had when I was 30. Like I always used to think I want to bob around Europe on a backpack. Who didn't want to do that? I mean, it seems like that's a lot of people's dream. And so here I was at 64. I was 65 then. 65, doing some of the things I dreamed of doing at 30. So again, I would say to women, don't wait. If you 53, like a woman says she's 53, do it now. You don't have to wait till you're 63. Just hop on out there and do the things you want to do. So Europe was an adventure. Like I said, I made the decision. It's not a place I want to live. I don't want to live that far. And again, I go back to stuff we don't like to talk about, but our mortality. And when I think about, I have a family in Baltimore. Not most of my family. I'm a part of a big family, but most of my siblings don't really like me. So I just have to take this straight. So I have one sister that adores me, right? And she's like the best human being that I know. I'm so grateful she's my sister. And her son, they came to Playa. She even came to Europe to see me. So and then I have friends who are like adore me and love me, and I love them. So when I think about being in Europe at this age, other people, I get it, they do it, but it's really like you said the other day. It's about like what's right for me.
Yes.
And what's right for me is I don't want to mentally and emotionally be that far away from hopping on a plane and going to Baltimore and just hanging out with friends and family, which I did before I went to Europe for 10 days. And I absolutely needed that and loved that. So that's why Europe was like, and there are probably other small things, but those, I would say those were the big things. And the major thing is the distance. And mentally, I don't want to feel like, wow, I can't get home fast enough. And even though Playa is my home, Baltimore, I still, it's my home also. I guess you can have more than one home.
Well, and that. Okay. What you've shared just now just goes to underscore is that this life looks different for everybody. Yeah. Like when I say home, I am not talking about Texas. I am not talking about the US. Right. That's me. Right. There are people who, when they leave the US to move abroad, they see it as a very like one and done. I will move to this place and that is it. And what you have just shown is it doesn't have to be that way. Even if you are over 50 or over 60, bopping around ain't just for young folks. That you can still choose to do that, and that you can there can be multiple places that feel like home for you. It isn't like I take on this new life and I completely abandon the old one. It doesn't have to be that way. Or if the people in your old life were really shitty and you want to abandon them, do that. That's the thing I want to make sure folks leave with, is that this will look different for you. And that's very much okay. That's completely okay. Yeah. Now, you thought maybe Europe. You got there, you were like, no. And it takes that sometimes, because that's another thing that I hear a lot, is that people are so focused on getting it right before they leave and not leaving themselves some space to get there, feel it out, to see, does this resonate with me? Does it click with me? Right. So you got to Europe and you got to Portugal and you was like, this is nice, but this is not for me. Right. Bopped around. Then you came back to Mexico. And
I stopped over in New York and spent 2 weeks with my daughter in New York City. And I sometimes I don't even know what motivates my decisions, but I do know that you and Rashida, y'all talk about Mexico City like it's the next thing to God. It's like,
We love it. Yes,
I know.
we love it.
But let me say this. It's a good thing that you all love it, and it will influence, like me being in Playa, it might influence someone to come here, but it may not be for them. So the thing is like there was a sister who invited me to come here. She doesn't live here anymore. The sister who said, "Why don't you come to Playa?" She's over in Germany, getting ready to go to Spain. So, but I feel like she did something good for me because I never even heard of Playa. I literally don't think I've ever heard of Playa del Carmen before she said, "Why don't you come to Playa?" I heard of Cancun, but that's it. To me, Mexico was Cancun. That's it. And I never wanted to go to Cancun because it always felt to me like all you're supposed to do is go there and party and drink and I was going to say some vulgar words and just have a lot of fun with a lot of different people. And I was like, that's not my, I never wanted to go to Cancun. So, but then I hear about Playa. So you and Rashida, I have respect for you guys. So I was like, well, let me try that. And there was another reason. I was like, I didn't want to come back to Playa because there were several people who had left, and I can be very sentimental. So I was like, boy, I'd go back to Playa. It would feel really lonely because they're gone, and then I would be in Playa kind of like by myself. But then once I got to Mexico City, and I spent about 2 weeks trying to find I was like,
Wait. This is the thing. When people tell you when you know, you know. And
yeah,
that can mean like, yes, I know this place is for me, or I know this place is not for me.
exactly.
Because I look up and Deborah has posted in the group, like this is the apartment I'm looking for, blah, blah, blah. I sent her a couple of things. Next thing I know, I look up, she was like, deuces, I'm out. This is not the place for me. Y'all can have this.
And it's so funny because when I came in 2021 and we met up, you, me, Rashida, Kathy, Patricia, I think that was all of us.
Yeah.
I had a time of my life. It was beautiful. I did not even see that neighborhood when I was there the second time. So I was trying to find some other places to go, but everywhere I landed, none of the places felt good like I wanted it to feel. They had a little something what I liked. One of the apartments were really nice. I stayed at three different places while I was there. One was a hotel, one was a two Airbnbs, and one was a guest house that a little roach came out, and I was like, hey, I'm out here. I was like, Airbnb, you need to give me my money back and give it back to me now. So, I won't even count that one as a place. But the other places were very nice. The places were nice, but I didn't feel that like that feeling that I look for of feeling at home. And one thing I love about Playa for me, and it is like you said, it's about each person. I can walk out right now. I can walk to Walmart and be there in about 5-7 minutes, right? I gotta be close to my food. And then I could walk to the beach in about 15 minutes. Then I could also, I love the apartment. I did find a place. I only had been here I found a place within a week that I had an Airbnb, and I found a place that I really adore. I love the place I'm at. And that was another big thing for me. It's like, how does my apartment feel? I'm really like big on feelings, and I happen to find a building that's practically brand new, and that was like, woo, yeah, because when I go to places, I'm very like, ooh, it feels like so many people been in here, living in here, cooking in here. I don't like the kitchen. It can be cute, but if it feels like a lot of energy of other people, like I said, everything for me is like how it feels. And like here, I've been cooking already. Today is Wednesday. I've been here a week. And I'm cooking already. It took me a while at other places because I had to. So Mexico City, I think it wasn't meant for me, not because, like, had it been meant for me, I would have landed in the right places, I feel like. You know what I'm saying? So I don't even feel like it's because it's Mexico City. I think it wasn't for Deborah. Because Mexico City is amazing. And I went on a few, fun things. And
You,
when I was,
while you were here, you were
I just,
living it up. You were doing the things. I mean, one day she's hot air ballooning over Teotihuacan. The next day she's doing this other thing. So like you were doing the things in the city. But this is if you're not trying to live here for sure a year, I will, because I'm going through this with somebody else right now. Mexico City is not an easy place to get a short-term rental that is not $1 million. It doesn't lend itself to that. So I know trying to find a place and the struggle, even when you know you're gonna be here, finding a place, it's work.
yeah.
It is work. And so I know that can definitely add to like, oh, I'm not sure if this is the place that I'm supposed to be. Now, you mentioned you weren't feeling Lisbon either. Can you put your finger on what about Lisbon didn't click for you?
I realized I was born in Virginia, even though I grew up in Baltimore. I realized I'm a little country girl. I must be a country girl inside that likes things close. I like things walkable. I like to be able to run into somebody. Now I don't want to live way out in the country with no cows and all that kind of stuff. But that mean. But I love, so for me, Lisbon, unlike Porto was walkable. I could walk all over Porto and just, and marvel at the beautiful things and go to the bookstores. And I loved that it was so walkable and quaint. I realized I like quaint. So Lisbon to me wasn't quaint. And when
And
I went
if
to,
Lisbon is not quaint, Mexico
no,
City sure
Lisbon
as
was
hell
not
ain't.
exactly. It was not quaint, and I realized. So I think if you're thinking, go check out, get clear about some of the things you're looking for, and then go to those places and see how they feel, and But Lisbon was like, I stayed in Lisbon I was in Europe for 3 months, and I stayed in Lisbon maybe like a week or two. Most of my time was either in Porto or in Costa de Caparica, which is outside of Lisbon, this surfers town.
Mhm.
I love that. Now, I love that. That was so much fun because, again, I also know I need a lot of sun. That's the other thing. Mexico City was raining every freaking day.
Well,
But
yes.
but that's one of the things that even when I moved here, I asked them, I said, does this place get a lot of sun? Because I'm facing like a little water fountain courtyard, not the street. There's on the other side is. So I asked them because I literally get depressed if I don't get enough sun. I have to have sun. So it affects my mood when I don't get it. So when I was in Mexico City, it was raining and all of that. And I was like, I wasn't depressed, but I knew I was like, where the sun is not, where?
And
When the
then
sun
it's
was
days, y'all, it's days here where the sun be sunning and you're like, it was just 50 degrees. Why am I burning up right now?
that's why I think it's a wonderful city. But while I was there, it literally like rained, I think, every day. I didn't mind the coolness of it. It was just the rain and not having a lot of sun. But that's not, again, some people, I know a friend of mine, she loves the rain. So it's not really the place. Is it in alignment with what your needs are on a day-to-day basis because you're going to live there. So when I went to Lisbon, it didn't feel like I visited Lisbon in 2021. Me and my daughter went there for her 27th birthday. We met up there and we had a time of our lives. But when I went to try to live and I think people have said this before, when you visit a place, it's a whole nother ball game when you're talking about living there.
Yeah.
It's like you even look out of different lenses. You're looking at it in a different way. So when I thought about Lisbon, I would live in Porto though if it wasn't so far away. That now I enjoyed that. I even went on a date, but we won't talk about that.
Oh, you shouldn't have mentioned it because they're gonna want to talk about it.
Because
They ain't gonna want to talk about it. I can tell you that now.
I know, because I was listening to yours and you were talking about your, and I enjoyed it. So you know how we are. We like to talk about those kind of things.
I think Patty, Mexico City don't mean nothing, had a great time, but it's not my place. And that's the thing. You keep saying like I had to feel it. And I'm very much an advocate for that because I think women, in particular Black women, we're socialized to dismiss our intuition. Like to second guess, like this doesn't feel right or this feels good to me. And so that's one of the things that I have become very, very cognizant of is trying to see how stuff feels. This is one of the reasons I've left the dating apps alone because I can't do vibes over an app. We gotta be in person for that to happen. So I think that is an important thing, that you may just need to go to a place and just see, what does it feel like to be here? That's part of why I went to Scandinavia, because I needed to be there and see, did it feel right for me?
See it as an adventure. Yeah. I mean, there's no commitment. It's just like going on a date. This first time you're on a date, you're not committed to this person.
You're not trying to marry him.
You're trying to marry them. You're really scoping the person out.
Exactly.
I want to see you again. I even like you.
Double T, thank you for the super sticker.
And I think that every time I say this statement, which is in our community, travel community, people in other communities like, oh my God, I love that. And I said it to my daughter and she shared it with some people. You're not a tree, you can move.
Absolutely.
And every time I use that statement, people just love it because we forget that we're not trees. We can literally pick up and move to another place.
If the life you are living is not serving you, you can go somewhere else.
You can go somewhere else.
You can go somewhere else.
The world is so big and so beautiful, really.
All right. They want to know about your day in Portugal.
I don't have time.
She said we ain't got time for that, y'all.
But I will say this. I'll just do like a Reader's Digest version, that I was on the app Hinge, and wherever you go, Hinge will, start to pair you with people in that. So this Portuguese guy, he hit me up and we started communicating, and I enjoyed that he was actually somebody to ask questions and was listening, and if I didn't follow up, he would say, well, what about what I said? And that's kind of unique.
Okay. Because there's a lot of men that don't understand the power of a follow-up question.
He was doing that. So we went out on a date, and he was younger. Well, most of the men gonna be younger. But anyway, we went out on a date, and we were having a good time. We just walked around, and we had a drink outside in the cafe, had some wine. But this thing started to go downhill when he wanted to go back to my Airbnb with me, and I told him no. And he kept persisting, and that was getting on my nerves. It was like, I already said no. And he would walk me a little, and he would ask me again. He must have asked me more than 2 times.
Men are slow. Men are
slow. He asked me.
They can't pick up.
And I was like, that annoyed me so much. Now, I will say this. I was so attracted to his conversation. He was a good listener. He asked good questions. And I'm going to be real transparent. I get tired of men that can't have a conversation. Oh my God. So, you know what I mean? Some of these men are just as dull and so
uninteresting.
We talk about that, you know. And if you can't have a conversation, I'm not gonna hang out with you. Okay, so he was doing that, but I was not physically attracted to him at all. I was not, and I wouldn't have gone home with him anyway, or he wouldn't have come with me anyway. But his persistence got on my nerve. If I told you once, it's 2 minutes later, 5 minutes later, it's still the same answer. And then later on, after that, a few days later, he hit me up, and I never responded because what's the point? You know, what's the point? What's the point? So that's in a nutshell. That's my one day.
Here's the thing, and this is the question that comes up all the time. Women want to know, is dating an option? And from what I have seen of your adventures, it very much is an option if that's something you want to do.
It's definitely,
if you got the patience for it, it's an option.
To use your word, if you can tolerate them,
if you can tolerate a man, there is likely to be some out there for you.
And I gotta say this because I was just hanging out with a new friend. She might be watching, and she lived in Lisbon for over a year, and she dated some, and they sound like they were pretty delicious. So okay, okay. Now she's not my age; she's younger than me. However, what I heard, and we can say they were not disappointing in some other.
Hey, now that's good to know. That is excellent to know.
And when she told me, I was like, "Hey, now, wait a minute, you know." But yeah, I was really, I wanted to share that because let's be real. And one of the conversations that we ought to have, we should have this conversation more often. And that is that we don't all want to just be single. Now, I'm okay right now, but there are women much younger than me who, if you're moving abroad, or even if you're not much younger, but you may want male companionship. And I think we should have that conversation, Adelia, more often than we do. So I really enjoyed your when you were talking. I was shocked when you were talking about.
Well, and that's because I messed up and I was not clear that we've got to talk about the fact that I am only looking for a man I can tolerate. I don't want a man just on the principle of wanting a man. Because as somebody commented, and if you're like, what the hell are they talking about? This was Monday's live. Somebody commented that basically my life is so good, like if I'm going to add somebody, they got to improve it. And that's exactly it. Like my life is great. There is nothing missing. So if a dude gonna show up over here, he has got to be bringing something to the table, maybe some tacos. But he's got to be doing something that's better than what I'm already doing by myself. And I have no tolerance for a man that thinks he's gonna show up and just be, well, I'm a man. You should be happy. No, baby, I'm not here for that.
We way past that, and I am too as well. So I feel you on that. But I just was happy to hear about my friend's experience in Portugal because she dated and really had a real relationship or two with someone, and that was nice to hear. So if you're considering Portugal, there's a possibility that you can actually, and these were, they sounded like decent men, right? And she's not a slouch, so she's not somebody just like, okay, any old body, come on. She's not that. She's not a little. No, she ain't one of those. No, she got standards.
Okay, all right. We had a few questions that I marked that I don't think we covered before. Somebody was wondering, when you were bopping around, were you also working at the same time?
Absolutely. Like I said, I work about 7 to maybe 11 days. Like this month, I'm working 10 days, I think, this month of October. But so as long as I had internet, as long as I had my phone, I was working. And because it's, I get to, when they call to schedule me, I get to pick the days. And what I tend to do is I tend to pick like the first 2 weeks. And then after that, I travel. I never had any problem whatsoever making sure that I work and then I play. So yeah, it just works out so well. Yeah, yeah. And you can do that if you're working, like a lot of people working for themselves. If you're working remotely for yourself, then you get to set the schedule.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. I am not qualified to answer Greta's question because, as y'all all know, I'm not cooking anything. She's asked if you could find Old Bay seasoning in Mexico.
I'm not qualified because I never look for Old Bay seasoning. I use my turmeric, I use my black pepper, my cayenne pepper, my pink salt, and that's my seasoning for everything. So Old Bay seasoning, I mean, I always thought that was for seafood, which they do have here, but for crabs, I never thought about Old Bay seasoning for anything else. So, and I don't see crabs here. Now I think about it. Have you?
Well, I don't really go to seafood restaurants a whole lot.
Okay, you pick a girl.
I mean, yeah,
You
I will eat a crab leg or two, but most of what you're right, like that's not going to be the dominant thing on the menu.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I've never even thought about crabs here. So I've never looked for it. And you can always get somebody that you get that big old, and if you go to Sam's Club, which they do have here in Playa, you might find it there, but you might not. But you can always get somebody to bring it to you, or you can bring a big old one from Sam's Club that big that should last you for at least 6 months, right? So no.
Rashida was giving me grief because what was it, 2 years ago? About this time 2 years ago, she brought me some Slap Your Mama, and I still got it. And she's like,
What is
Slap Your
it?
Mama. It's like Tony Saturated. It's like a seasonal, and I
Okay.
still have it. I haven't used it all, and I was like, well, I don't cook enough.
Well, season is for people who cook, except
Yeah,
salt. That's for people who
and
eat.
and I don't cook enough for
Yeah, yeah,
that.
and you ain't gotta cook in Mexico. That's the beauty. You really don't have to.
No, you don't have to.
You don't.
It
But some
is,
people enjoy cooking, and
yes.
I'm not a person who enjoys cooking as much as I enjoy eating certain things. And salmon is one thing I love, so I cook that on a regular basis. And
Okay.
I eat a lot of salads, so that ain't cooking. That's
We've got a couple of questions
okay.
about the work that you are doing. So this is legal work again that you're
Yeah,
doing?
yeah. So I'm an attorney. Been an attorney for 28 years. Um, and I represent people who have just been arrested. So the blessing was that I used to go into jail and sometimes have to stand for 4 hours while everybody else was seated. And in front of the commissioner, I'm their attorney if they can't afford an attorney, and many people cannot. And so when the pandemic happened, in December 2020, we went remote. And that was my ticket to get
Awesome.
out of Dodge. And so that's what I do. And it's the best job ever. If I had to, yep, it's the best job ever. It pays decent and it allows me the flexibility. That's what I love. It allows me to live my life the way I want to live my life.
That's awesome.
I couldn't work 5 days a week. If somebody said I had to work 5 days a week and be there from 8 to 4 or 9 to 5, I don't know really. I don't. I could.
Once you stop doing that, that's a
Yeah.
very hard thing to go back to. I picked up a contract and it was only a couple of weeks, but during that time they needed us to be full time. And after the first week, I was like 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. I don't want any part of this ever
Mhm.
again. Ever
No.
again.
No.
Um as you I guess because you said Playa's home.
Yeah.
What made you feel like it was a fit, like you belong there, like that's your place, one of your places?
Yeah. It's walkable, and because I'm a single woman, and I'm a loner, even though I'm a gregarious person. I enjoy people, but I spend a lot of time by myself. So when I leave my apartment and go out, I like being around people. One thing I like is I don't want to live so remotely, so away from people that I don't hear people or see people living their lives. There's something about that I absolutely need and want. So in Playa, there's no shortage of seeing people live their lives, right? So I like that. I love the weather, even though it's a little warm. What I like about it is that it's I love the sun. Like I said, I absolutely love the sun. It's like it really it affects my mood, and so that I don't have to. And if it rains, it might rain for a few minutes, and then it's done. Right?
Yeah.
Um, it has a lot going on here. It's also close to other places I might want to go. If I want to hop over to Tulum, if I want to hop over to Cancun, which I don't, I went over there once, maybe twice. Cozumel is also there's a strong spiritual community. Like there's a sister I met down here who gives retreats. I went on an ayahuasca retreat. Are you familiar with ayahuasca? I went on one of those back in November of 20. It had to be last year. So and that was important to me because I want to, like, because I'm kind of a loner. When I venture out, like, I had to come to terms that even when I was much younger, I never was a person who just want to party, 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 party. That gets old. I want to also go to a workshop. I want to go to a class. I want to go to a spiritual retreat. I want to be around people who are talking about some deep stuff. That's me. And I had to acknowledge that that's important to me. And I found that here when I was here last year, when I was here for the year. And then that drew me back. I was like, there's a place called Casa Mama Yemi up the street where they have ceremonies and all of that kind of stuff. It's like I feel like Playa is a good little hub. And then I get to travel around Mexico with no problem. Go to Cancun, catch a plane, be to Mexico City, in a couple of hours.
Yeah.
And I love that. And it just felt like it ticked all of my boxes. And I ain't gonna go. No, I better not say that because they're gonna want to know. But they always trying to give you a Mexican boyfriend down here. Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So and also the people, because I'm by myself. When I go out, I can interact with people. Still, I might run into some of the expats, and I might not. But even Mexican folks, I felt like when I was in Mexico City, that's the one thing I was like, people were like in their world. They were kind of more like in their world. They doing
folks be having places to go.
Yes, here people they ain't got nowhere to go. They just hanging out. Everybody's hanging out, having some drinks, dancing, going to the beach. I love that vibe. It's sort of, and that was also pulling me back because I wanted to be somewhere where when I do go out, if I don't want to do nothing, I still be amongst people on the beach. I might be there with my little beer, and then people might start playing some music, and next thing you know, they might invite me over. Anything can happen, and I need that. As a single woman, I feel like if I don't, I'm a single woman, but I don't want to be by myself all the time. And then I do have some expat friends here as well. So it just feels like, and there's probably some things I'm missing, but it just feels right.
It checks a lot of boxes. Let me ask you, because I know that was one of your hesitations on returning to Playa, is that certain people who were there when you were there before had moved on. And did that turn out to be as bad as you thought it might be?
Not at all. Not at all. No. I thought, and that's a good question because I really was concerned about that because I'm a real sentimental person and I can be real nostalgic. And so in my mind, I was thinking I'll get here and it feel weird. It doesn't.
Okay.
Absolutely. And like I said, I had when I before I moved here, I was in an Airbnb, and before I left, there was a sister I had met, and we just connected. And when I came back, I had one day before I could move into here that I was like either going to get a hotel or whatever. An Airbnb where I was staying, you had to have a 2-night minimum. So minimum. And so I was like, so I asked her, and she's like, no problem. She has a nice
Come through.
apartment. It felt good to have somebody, like somebody said, it's hard to ask. Honey, one thing that we have to learn as we travel in the world, you're going to need to ask for directions. You're going to need to ask for, like, if you don't speak the language, you're going to I think that it teaches us to stop acting like there's some kind of failure by asking. And so when I asked this sister, she was no problem. I went, stayed in her second bedroom. She was sweet as she could be, and it was no problem whatsoever. So I think traveling to strange places that you've never been is an opportunity to learn not to be so independent.
To where
Look
you overlook opportunities to get the help that you need.
get the help you need, and you find you're connecting with people, and sometimes those connections enriches the relationship because I felt like her just saying yes, it solidified our relationship in a way that it wouldn't be because she just like no problem, and then we set up chit chatting, and it was beautiful, and I haven't seen her since that day, but I feel like we're friends, we're good.
Yep. Lisa wants to know, do you feel like Playa is getting overcrowded with expats? Because that's what she's heard.
No, not really. I mean, I remember I was here before, and I was here during a time when it was like people had gone back to Canada, gone back to the U.S., and it weren't as many people here. And I remember then one day I looked up and a whole lot of people were here, and I was like, where all these people come from, and why are they here? But then now it's like I don't really notice now. I guess and in terms of expats, I'm not really monitoring how many. I mean, you know what I mean. I just I don't know. No, I don't think it's overcrowded. And I guess a lot of people who are Europeans or Canadians, they come here. Is she asking, is it overcrowded with just expats from anywhere or Black expats?
She didn't specify, but I think a lot of what's making the rounds in the media now is that like all these foreigners, primarily Americans and Canadians, are moving to Mexico, and just wondering like what that's looking like in Playa.
But let me say this, Adelia. I do think that it's having an impact though, because I feel like, and this might be me, being sort of sensitive, but some of the Airbnbs where I've been staying, it seems like if it's like cracking down on, like I think Americans and Canadians are coming with a certain attitude, and when I got here last year, I feel like it was easier to. I didn't feel. I feel like them now. Like I had somebody say, "You got to pay for this towel that I used." He said that I put some makeup on it, and now I got to pay $23 and some change for a towel. But his whole tone at the Airbnb when he would text me, the whole tone was suspicious. Even my last day at the Airbnb, the maid came in and she started looking through the drawers like I was going to run off with some forks and some plates. And I was offended. But I think that people are abusing some things and causing the people, the locals, to now say, you're going to pay for this, you're going to pay for that, y'all stealing my stuff, you're doing stuff. And that's because of the influx of people who come with entitlement. And I got some
Yeah.
sense of entitlement myself. I ain't gonna lie, because I was kind of flustered. It was like, how dare you? So I
Okay.
do think in that way it is having an impact, and I
Okay.
ain't feeling it. But
Okay.
I can't feel
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Okay. The place that you mentioned before, Cat from Re Blue Room wanted to ask. Casa Mama
Yemi, Casa Mama
Yemi?
Yemi. Yeah,
Yemi.
Casa Mama Yemi. Yemi is Yemi. And that's a place here in Playa. It's a spiritual place where a sister runs it, her and her man. And you can go up there and do ayahuasca. I'm not sure ayahuasca, but they do shrooms, psilocybin. You know, they have ceremony, different kind of retreats and stuff like that. And that was very appealing to me. I haven't been up there, but she was at my ayahuasca retreat. That's how I met her.
Okay.
And I hear
Okay.
it's a really beautiful place. Yeah, Casa Mama Yemi.
Okay. Let me see what other questions I had starred. Earlier we were talking about, like some of the things that people are often fearful about, and Crystal mentioned health insurance and getting good doctors. Do you have any experience with the medical situation in Mexico or wherever else that you've been?
I don't.
Okay.
And in fact, I'm thinking about going to a dentist here. And I hear that, you know, I, I try to get referrals when I do stuff like that. But no, I have health insurance in the States, but I've never gotten any treatment here other than I had vertigo or something going on with me last year. And one thing I like that they're very much, oh yeah. And I had to go to a doctor, and she had to look at my ear. I had like some wax in there, and she took it out. And then I don't know how long, maybe a week or two later, that whatever that was gone. So I like the way that they do things here, and it was like $40 for that. Now, if I had gone in the States without insurance, I don't know, but it wouldn't have been $40.
Wouldn't have been $40, that's for sure.
$40, it wouldn't have been $40. So I don't have health insurance here, no.
Okay. All
That's my
right.
only experience with them. But I will say, when you go to the pharmacy, which I really like, you can talk to the pharmacist and they can help you with stuff that may not rise to the occasion of needing a doctor. And I think the US is one of the few places that always requires a doctor for everything, almost everything other than Tylenol. But I've been to South Africa, and you can go to a pharmacist and tell them your symptoms, and they're like, okay. And
Which
I think,
which really
that's
doesn't make sense, because the amount of school you got to go to be a pharmacist, like pharmacists know things, and why in the US we don't utilize that, I don't know.
you do know capitalism. They want that
You
that
right, you right, you right,
you already
you
know.
right.
My doctor's got to get a new Mercedes next year, girl.
Yep, yep.
Shoot.
All right, y'all. We have been here almost an hour and a half. So if you have any last minute pressing questions, go ahead and drop those in the chat. I have pinned a link to if you've heard Deborah here and you're like, I need to talk to her. Her contact link is there. While I'm waiting on y'all to put your last minute questions in the chat, let me just take a break to remind you or let you know, because I haven't been good about getting the word out. Several people, yesterday, I was on our Black Utopias channel talking about investing. Y'all know that I do a Get Started Investing Challenge. The next one is this month. It starts October 16th. I think there a link in the description. Was I on top of stuff enough to do that? I don't know. But here is, I think so. I think there's a link in the description. If you go to like where my courses are or whatever, there's a link there. If you missed out on it previously, because I think the last time I did it was in July, or you're like, ooh, girl, I got this 401k and I don't even know what the hell's in there. this may be the thing for you. This is the last time I am doing it this year.
Oh
So
yeah.
just putting the word out there that that is now open. And did we get any more questions? Um, Everybody's just enjoying you. Okay. So if you're thinking about doing the Get Started Investing Challenge, because it's only 6 days long, if you can't attend all of the live sessions, can you still register? Yes. Every live session, of which there are 3 or 4, they are all recorded and all posted the next day so that people can access those. But I will say this, y'all, the idea behind the challenge is to prompt you into action. So if you know that I got a lot of stuff going on in my life right now, and I am probably not going to be able to, like, because there's content that you got to learn and stuff like that, like you need to be able to give it an hour a day, whether that's part of the live session or not. You need to be able to give it an hour a day. If you can't, it might be better just to book a one-on-one with me if you know that I can't do that. But if the idea of, like, I've been saying I needed to look at my 401k and I needed to start investing, but I've just been putting it off, and you need that little extra nudge, the challenge is probably definitely for you. But if you're like, okay, 2 of the days I can't make the live session, no big deal. Those will be recorded and posted. Um, I enjoyed the chat that we had yesterday on our Black Utopias channel. I adore Halisi and Rick. They are just so sweet and so hilarious. Um, so if you're curious, definitely go check that out. And is there a cutoff for the class, like in the number of people? Maybe. I don't know. I haven't really thought about that. Maybe, possibly. I don't know. I'll let you know. I will vocally say something if we're getting close to a point where there's like a limit. Okay. So I don't see any more questions in the chat. Thank you so much, Deborah, for coming on here. The minute you posted that you were leaving Mexico City, I was like, I need her to come talk about this, because I do feel everybody knows how much I love this place, but it is not for everybody. And, that's okay. That's okay. Like, if it doesn't work out for you, that doesn't mean it's the end of the world. So I really appreciate your candor and your transparency and your willingness to come on here and talk. You mean a date to sign up? Yes. It starts on the 16th with an intro call. So 16th, 17th, you got to be signed up by then, or you'll just have to wait till the next time. Okay. All right.
Adelia, this has been fun. It's good to talk to you. You do a lot of good. I love you're just so candid and direct. And I think for women, you are an example of how we ought to be about our lives. In other words, tell the truth about what's real for you. What do you like? What do you don't like? What you willing to do? What you're not willing to do? And it just frees us up. It took me a long time, and I still work at it. Like, how do I be true to Deborah? How do I be true to Deborah? Because if I had gotten attached that I got to prove something by living somewhere else, I would not be back in Playa. I don't have to prove nothing to nobody. I just have to be happy. I just have to be happy. And the only person who knows what that is me. And so I would say to every woman, that's all you got to do is you just got to be true to you. Be honest with you about what you really want. Like when Adelia went to where did you go? And it was so funny. Like, I just don't. I really would. Can I get a part-time girlfriend visa?
That's really. I have been saying this. I hadn't said it publicly, but I'm not really girlfriend material, which is
Right.
wild because I was married for 20 years, and so like I did that, but I apparently that's all I had in me. if a dude can be like, yeah, we just kick it when we kick it, and like
I
then
do.
we can talk. Then we can talk. But this like,
But what I would encourage you to do is this. There's a man out there thinking the same thing.
yes, and it's a matter of being in the
Y'all,
same place and finding
exactly. He
him.
like, damn, I done met my match. Finally,
Yes,
I'm with
yes,
somebody who wants what
yes.
I want.
But
So that's
I'm not gonna get stressed out about it. In the meanwhile, I'm just gonna live my life. But back to what you were saying, I say a lot. All I can be is who I am,
yeah.
and who I am, whatever society happens to say about that, is okay. It doesn't matter if I am the kind of woman society says I'm supposed to be, and all of that. All I can be is who I am. That's it. That's it.
And that's for all of us. But women my generation particularly, we have been, I think, tricked into believing that we got to be good women. And what does
Yes.
that mean? Good for everyone else but yourself. And so I told my friend yesterday, I said, good woman means I'm good to me. That's what a good woman is today, Deborah. So thank you for this opportunity.
You're very, very welcome. You're very welcome. And we're going to end on that. I just saw Pamela Jones. I just put the link in the chat. I keep meaning to fix that other link about if you want to book a one-on-one with me. If you go to askadelia. Here it is, .setmore.com, askadelia.setmore.com. You can book a one-on-one with me. And I need to fix that in the description. All right. Thank y'all so much. Everybody, bye. Enjoy your evening.